Okay. Good morning, everyone. Again, we are back for round two. This is the 10 o'clock workshop for economic development, so we're going to call that to order at this time. And can we have a roll call, please?
This is a public workshop of the Citrus County Board of County Commissioners. This 8th day of February 2022. In attendance are Chairman Ronald D. Kitchen Jr., Second Vice Chair Holly Davis, Commissioners Scott Carnahan and Jeff Kennard, County Administrator Randy Oliver, and County Attorney Denise A. Diamond Lynn.
Thank you very much. Okay, Commissioners, as you know, this was one of the workshops we talked about having at our retreat, where we said we would put all the hot topics up and bring them in and workshop them and decide if we want to continue with them or not. This first one up was about economic development. I believe Commissioner Kennard made the comments, which were very appropriate, that said what we're doing hasn't worked. I would go back and say I've lived here since 1986, and what they've done since 1986 hasn't worked. So, and what's that saying? If you continue, it's insanity. If you continue doing the same thing over and over again, expect different results. So I think the reason we're here today is to try a new approach. What I had proposed for a while was modeling after the TDC. And so what I've done is we've gone back through the Economic Development Council bylaws and tweaked on them, and basically just as a starting point, this was just something to get in front of us to react to. And so what I did is I asked the legal department just to kind of go through and gave us a strikeout copy of what was changed and a final copy of what it would look like. But, you know, what my proposal has always been is if, you know, the TDC has been extraordinarily successful in the way they operate and what they do. And so if we modeled it after that, that might be a good start. And so again, as you go through this, the biggest thing that I've put in here is that it would be made up of 9 people. And again, remember, this is just something to react to. This is just throwing it at. That it would be made up of 9 people, county commissioner who would serve as the chair, then the elected official from each city, and then the other remaining members, I believe, were slated as of the 9 members, that 4 members would be owners and operators of licensed businesses, and then 2 other members would be they don't have to be, but they would be people who also have an interest or demonstrated an interest in economic development. And what I proposed was that we would start this board by advertising for positions. People would submit their applications and what criteria they're in, and of course the board positions would be determined by the 2 cities who those officials would be. This board would meet just like the TDC. It would meet in the sunshine. There would be some things out of the sunshine, particularly when it came to meeting with potential developers. That would be between the economic development director. It wouldn't have to necessarily come to this board, because remember, this is a advisory board, just the same as the TDC is. And the budget referred to in here, is my understanding, the economic development budget is determined by the business tax. That's still correct the way we're doing that, right? Right.
The way that the county commission set up originally, that is correct.
Great. Okay. So that's really, I just wanted to get something in front of us to react to, what you like, what you don't like, any other ideas, any other thoughts. Seems to me, and again, keeping in mind, and again, my experience with the TDC is the tourist development director was not hired by the TDC board. He was hired by the county administrator. So the employees of this department are hired by the administrator. But again, the TDC had input into the hiring of that administrator, or that director. But that was not an employee, and that employee does not report to that board. So this commissioner would come back, just like the TDC and our other boards, come back and make a monthly report to the BOCC of what's happening with economic development and so on. So that's my introductory to this. Commissioners, where you want to go from here? What's your thoughts, ideas? Who wants to go? Yes, ma'am.
I'll jump right out there because I love this topic. I think that one of the teamwork is what always makes things happen. And I think one of the primary reasons that we maybe have not had the best out of our economic development directors is because they're working in a vacuum by themselves. We're a small county. We don't put a whole lot of budget behind it, meaning they don't get a whole team. There's just one person. And so I think that this is an outstanding direction to consider. I do have concerns as much as, TDC has been so successful that, like I said, it's a really good option to consider, and that may be where we end up landing. I am a little concerned about it being in the sunshine because of some of the sensitive nature of economic development, and also really promoting a environment of creative brainstorming and so on and so forth. One thing that I think we may want to look at, because it has also been outrageously successful from what I understand, is the CEP, which is next door in Marion County. So it's not only, it is the chamber, but it's the economic partnership, so it's much larger than the chamber. But the chamber's obviously, works for business, so, that's why they're involved in that. So those are my 2 cents worth. That is an idea that came up solely in my brain. Nobody got in my ear, just for the record.
And my only comment about that, and again, just my feedback on that, is that what is discussed in the sunshine is not necessarily, as I said, the businesses that might be coming here and that type of thing. It's more about the direction, the approach, the marketing approach, that type of thing. The other thing is I have real concern about chamber members being involved in this, because the Chamber of Commerce functions for its members. Okay, it doesn't function for the county. And I've had, I don't know how many times over the years, the Chamber of Commerce, at one time I actually even said that the economic development arm should be an arm of the Chamber of Commerce and under it, and they pushed back against that because they said, we're not about economic development except for our members. So I just have a real problem. It seems to me we're getting to a point where the chamber is singled out, say, make sure the chamber, well, yeah, we want to hear, and if they want to have a representative, if that's somebody from that organization that wants to submit, but again, it would come down to this board looking at the resumes and saying, these are the people that we think would have the biggest bang for what we're trying to do economically and for economic development. So that's why I didn't say from an industry. I mean, because to me, do you want the chairman of a major investment firm, or do you want somebody that, to use their own example, somebody that runs a lawnmower repair business,
No, yeah.
So that was my point about that, is that, anybody can apply, but it would be up to this board to determine how those people are. So.
May I respond?
Sure.
My only point, not to say that the chamber would be in charge of this, what I'm saying is that it happens to have the chamber involved in it in Marion County. And I know that can be a topic that we end up getting caught in the weeds a little bit on, but to look at the structure, who is involved with CEP, might be a good thing to figure out sort of a short list on who we'd want to have on our own council. Just a thought. Because I agree, investment banker, yes. Mm-hmm. Lawnmower repair, maybe not so much.
Unless he owns a chain of lawnmower repair.
Exactly.
You're going to hear from every lawnmower repair shop.
I know. I love a good lawnmower. I need one.
Do we know how other counties, surrounding counties, have done this? So that we're not. I'm not opposed to this idea, but how other counties are doing this. Pasco County, for instance, East Pasco County, has seen just an absolute explosion of industry coming in there, high-paying jobs, and they've got more on the way. Something has triggered that. There's been some conversation go on about getting those companies to build there, and I think that they've all established right along the Suncoast Parkway. Hernando County has seen success as well, not to the degree that Pasco has. But I understand Pasco has a much larger population base, and they're closer to a very large population base. But a county like that is doing something quite well. And I just wonder what their economic development department, what that looks like. Is it a function of county government? Is it a private arm or a private group, or are there two working together? You know, so those are things that I should have, but I have not. I will reach out to some folks down there and find out what their economic development team looks like. But I like the idea of an organized board as you brought forward here. Certainly, the TDC has been very successful at bringing tours to our county. You know, the funding mechanism obviously is much different for the two boards. What seats are held on that core center, that core group? Who?
Just myself. Chamber sits there. Both cities sit there. SCORE, Business Alliance, kind of that group and that group right there. I mean,
Okay.
nothing really set there, you know, and but you know, when it comes to, and while I'm talking, I'll throw my 2 cents in. I mean, you know, we look at Pasco County, okay, one side they have 75, then they have the toll road. They got ways to move product and things like that. Marion County, 75 come right through there. It has become a hub, and they've just done tremendously well. And I think that's where Citrus County is coming in the spotlight, because now we're going to have ways to move product and things like that, more transportation. So, you know, again, I'm not sure whether you know, the TDC has done an excellent job. The only concern is what Commissioner Davis said is, you know, these companies come in and want to do things behind closed doors until they're ready to announce themselves. And so it would be a little concerning of Sunshine and them not wanting to get out in front or be out, you know, being talked about until they make that decision. So that would be my only concern, you know. But we also got to look at what is Citrus County? I mean, what can we attract here? You know, because we're not Marion County, we're not Pasco County. So, you know, what does this board look at economic development? What do we look at trying to bring in here? And then I think that we've got to decide whether to go with a board like this or hire, you know, and head that direction.
My thought, it's a great question. What are we looking to attract? And I think that's where we need people that have been involved in this kind of stuff before and go. You know, I remember having a conversation with somebody about the Holder Industrial Park and not having 4 lanes of highway there and so forth. And he said, you're not going to build, was a Class A or Class 1 industrial park there. That's not going to happen. But it's, I forget how they're categorized. It may be a 3 or a C level industrial park where they don't need 4 lanes of traffic. They need industrial space to manufacture what they manufacture. You know, I just got an email yesterday morning from the company that Business Appreciation Month bus tour the chamber puts on that we stopped at, and they manufacture a product to allow folks with disabilities to control their environment, to control the air conditioning, TV, surf the web, phone calls, whatever they want. Whether they're paraplegic, quadriplegic, they can use. It's a suck blow system that is attached to their bed, and this system that they're putting together, they're being used in the VA hospitals around the country. The folks that are sent home with these type of disabilities that qualify for it, this is the company they're getting this whole system from. Now they're being manufactured here. The components are being put together here, but the software program, which they now write themselves, is being written down in a different location in Hillsborough County. Well, they're interested in combining those two up here, and so they're looking for who do they turn to? Who is that group that somebody like that? That's exactly the type of industry that I would think we would love to see here. But there are experts, as I start off, there are experts that have done this before. You know, we've each got areas that we know quite well, but I don't know that we know that area well of a county this size, with this degree of transportation or this level of transportation and infrastructure. These are the types of companies you go after, and then allow this group to do it. How they do that without putting those company names out there, you know, I'm not real sure how that happens.
A couple of thoughts here. To some degree, we've done that. Our incentive program talks about targeted businesses and targeted about jobs. So we've kind of laid out what we think we would like to have. And let's just be clear about a couple of things. When I talk about a sunshine board, it means the members can't discuss things
Correct.
outside of me, okay? Even at the TDC, John would come in and say, hey, we have this big thing that might be happening. I can't talk about it now, but just let you know, it's the same kind of thing. You know, it's just because it just keeps the members from going off and wheeling and dealing behind the scenes. What I think is important, remember, we spent all that time and effort with our community outreach, right, to get everybody on board with economic development. So to me, a big part of that's transparency. A lot of that has to be two things. One is everybody in the community knows they can come once a month and make a presentation, and they can pitch their ideas. And that's what the TDC does. They sit and listen to ideas, and we say, hey, it's a great idea. Let's look into it. So this would be the, what would we call this? This would be the sponge that's out there for the community to come, other businesses come and give their ideas. And then there would also be the vetting board that would say, okay, we'll look into it. And then they would come and bring their recommendation to the BOCC. And to answer those kind of questions. That's what the TDC did. They said, we can't be everything. Every place in Florida has sunshine. Every place in Florida has, what do we have that's unique? Let's get out and market that, you know? And I think that's why the TDC became successful, because we listened to folks, we processed the information. And when you talk about what other people do, I'll remind you, during the pandemic, everybody was looking at Citrus County like, what are they doing up there with tourism? Why is their tourism so good? And everyone else is not. So this would be that information gathering thing. You see what I'm saying? So because how do you know what kind of director you want to hire until you want to know what it is you're going after? you
Right.
know? And again, the funding is self-sufficient. It's like the TDC. The more successful we are attracting businesses, the more businesses are paying the tax, the more that goes into it. So we have more money to market with, more to attract, more businesses. So I don't want to get lost too much in the weeds of the sunshine thing. This is all about transparency. The other thing that this does is it does not create a board. The core group is not a county board.
Right.
I mean, we did not make appointments to them. They don't have authority to make recommendations to the board. It's just what Commissioner Carnahan brings back and wants to share or whatever, but they're not set to meet at a certain time. I don't know that that's open to the public, where anybody off the street can come in and meet, or their meetings are announced. And the other thing is they don't meet that often. So this board would meet once a month. Anybody could come, and it's a 4-year term. So other people in the community know when those terms are up, and they would be a staggered term, that other people in the community would have an opportunity to get on the board, just like with all of our other boards. So it wouldn't become this close-knit thing that we've had in the past where only certain people have access to the decision makers or whatever. It's a community-wide thing, and it's got to be kind of dynamic. Maybe today, how many times do we hear from developers? When we started this PUD, this is what we had in mind, but the market's changed.
Yeah.
This would allow that to be flexible, and all the marketing that the TDC does is very sensitive to that. We're getting a response from that, let's do more. We're getting no response from that, let's shift it someplace else. So, to me, this isn't the do it all. This is just the way that we create it so that it does have structure, and so that it's and everybody could have a say. Literally every month they could come to this meeting and say what they want to say. So as we discuss the format of it, so many times in the past, ideas get shot down because we all don't have a clear understanding of what it is that we're talking about. And that's what this is. I mean, so this board would decide. You could look at people and you could say, hey, I read these 15 resumes and I didn't even know this guy was in our community. This guy would be great to have on there.
Right.
Because if we keep putting, and no offense against anybody else, but if we keep putting the same people back on the same boards, it has no makes no difference what the board looks like. You're gonna get the same thing. you
Right,
know?
right.
So I think we were all about shaking it up. Let's getting some fresh ideas and new things happening out there. So that's what this was about. And then it's an ongoing thing. And then the board can do whatever it wants. If you want to make it 11 members, or you want to make, you want to change the structure, but at least it's a structure and everybody has the opportunity. What I'm uncomfortable with, I'll tell you right now, with these chamber boards and the cores things and so on and so forth, is the public doesn't have access to that discussion. The public, they're outsiders. So we talk about doing this with tax dollars, but they can't go and sit and listen, and they don't see it it's not on television or whatever. So to me, if you want the whole community to buy into economic development, you have to do it that with what we did with tourism. We showed the citizens what the benefit to the average citizen was of tourism. We need to do that with economic development. And I'm talking way too much about this. I just want to make sure that it's clear to everybody what I'm proposing. Yes, sir.
I like where you're going. I'm gonna support it when this makes it to the agenda, and we're gonna vote on it. My question is, and I don't even know if they're still the same company that we use, but who would be the Economic Development's board? Who would be our evoke?
That would be up to this board to determine, and you'd probably want to get the board, my thoughts, the way this would work is you would constitute this board first, okay, and then you get together, then you would have your first discussions about what you think you should have in an economic development director, right? And then you get that process going, and then once that person's on board, then you go out for the evoke, then everybody's on the same page looking for the same thing. That, in my mind, is the way that would work. So, it's like you're building a company. So you gotta have your corporate bylaws to get started, and then you're gonna go out and set up your board of directors, and then you're going to hire your CEO, and then you're gonna start your marketing. I mean, that's the way I envisioned it. So.
Okay.
I don't have a problem at all with that. I do agree with Commissioner Kennard. We have some very talented people in this county that have done this before, and what we've got to do is try to get them involved to sit on these boards. And if we can get that, that's great. And then we go down the road of what we want to look like and how we want to move forward. And because another area that this county is failing at is Hernando County, around the airport industrial park. They're drawing companies away from here because their incentive packages are better. So I think that's another area that we're going to have to go down and have a conversation of, is not allowing Marion County, not allowing Hernando County or Pasco County to give better incentive packages that and drawing these companies. Because Cybex, I think they're looking at moving to Hernando County for different reasons, and that's something that we've got to fight for to keep these companies here. So.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I certainly don't think, and I understand your point. I don't think we can try and go toe to toe with incentive packages of the larger counties. I mean, we just can't compete in that marketplace. But we sell our strengths, and we've got a lot of them.
That's right.
And so the next director of economic development that's hired, I would want to make sure that person is going down and talking with Cybex, identify what their issues are. Right. I know a big one is water. I understand that. But let's don't let that be the end of the conversation. Let's try and figure it out so that we don't lose that company. Or the company, like I said, that's manufacturing these disability devices, climate control devices. Somebody needs to be in their shop, not calling or emailing. Somebody needs to be in their shop, sitting down, having a cup of coffee, and saying, how do we facilitate you getting programmers up here? Your company is doing nothing but growing. That's the type of industry we want here. Has anybody had that conversation with them other than, a couple of us on that BAM tour? I mean, those are people we need to be talking to.
They were impressive.
And it's their job to grow their business, but it's our job to say, hey, come up here. And they already have an interest in moving up from Hillsborough County. So I don't know, you know, what it takes to make sure that that's what that director is doing. But I think that's the person that goes out and sells, maybe not necessarily that we've got a bigger incentive package, we're gonna be as competitive as we can be, but here's some things we can do to help facilitate your business being successful here.
Yeah, work with them, you know, to find, a lot of times we hear government is a impediment to their expansion or whatever. Well, how so?
Right.
You know, be specific. What can we do? What is government doing to keep you from growing?
Right.
You know, and if it is government, well, that's one thing, but if it's not,
Right.
then maybe we can help identify who that resource would be to help them.
Right.
I just think this is you know, it's more of a, it's like what you were saying earlier about the DOT. There's so many different programs and grants and stuff out there. You kind of need a central clearinghouse, you know. We found that out with Visit Florida, I mean, with the TDC. I mean, every time you turned around, well, there's this opportunity and you can leverage this and you can do this and whatever. So a lot of times we just leveraged what we were doing with what the state was doing, and it benefited us. So what do you think about, I mean, if you're looking at this as a template, is this a okay place to start? Do you think there should be more people on it? Do you think it should be less? Do you think it should be, again, like I said, I tried to keep it simple. I tried to use what we had here. Because if you agree you want to give this a shot, then the thing we'd do is we'd leave here today and ask Randy to go back and put this on the future agenda so we could, I guess the thing to do would be to start adopt these bylaws and start advertising for these positions. And if it's a 4-year term, I think we stagger them so we'd fill, of the 9, 3 are government. So the 6, we'd have to have like 3 that started with a 2-year term and 3 that started with a 4-year term. And, you know, so we would do that to get the original term staggered. And then the fun part will be to see what kind of applications we get in, you know, and who wants to be on it and doing it. So that, I'm just thinking if we're going to start from scratch, this was but the first go at it, because that's what we had. And the TDC bylaws have been changed from year to time, you know. One of the things they used to do is they used to elect a chairman every year, and that kind of got to the point because deference was always shown to the county commissioner on that board. So it just made sense to me that you just made the like we do with a lot of these other boards, you know, the commissioner is always the chairman. So that was one of the changes that was made. And we also increased the number of people that must collect the tax. You know. I thought it's good to not necessarily make it a requirement that they're all own businesses, but the majority of them, I think, should. You
Yeah.
know? But there might be people that are retired business people that have.
I was gonna say.
That's why I said at least 2 that don't necessarily have to be in business, but show interest in it. So.
You know, in another, that, you know, I want to convey is, you know, there's business owners that are here that have businesses across the southeast, so we don't want to just limit them to say, hey, you have to have a business in this county. If we, you know, there's some very intelligent individuals here that have businesses across the country that we need to be tapping into, and you know, on these things like that too.
Or we could change the licensed business to people with demonstrated business backgrounds or something like that, you know, I mean, whatever we think, so.
Yep,
you
that's
know,
a great point.
That's what the intent is, so. Yes, ma'am?
I would, I think this is the idea to beat. I would like, from a standpoint of due diligence, and I guess I should have done more research on all the surrounding counties, but quite frankly, I'm used to coming into a workshop and staff has presented all of our options, and we obviously don't have an EDC director right now, so I would like to do the due diligence of looking at the surrounding counties that are doing exceptionally well in economic development, and it may end up tweaking this idea at best, most likely, but at least we can cherry pick whatever the best ideas are that are working with our neighbors. I would like that due diligence rather than just accepting this wholesale. I really appreciate you doing this because it was great, great start.
Well, the reason this is in front of you is at the at the retreat, you said, let's do it.
I
And
know.
that's why it's here in
I
front
know,
of you. so-
and I'm honestly thanking you for that because I do think it's the idea to beat. But rather than rush to do it exactly like TDC, perhaps we should look and see what the surrounding counties who are doing it very well, because we might be able to cherry pick a couple of really good ideas to add to
Oh,
this.
sure, yeah.
You know? So that's just I have no problem with imitation as the most sincerest form of flattery, so.
Yeah, my term I use is steal what works. So you start with this or whatever, and then as we get other ideas, we add to it, take away from it, whatever. I'm a firm believer of do all your planning on the paper before you start moving the dirt.
And again, when we're looking at these other counties that are working well, let's remember again what Citrus County is, because
Of course.
because Marion County has way more to offer than because of their road system, and Pasco County and things like that. So we need to look at what Citrus County is and what it's going to become, and because the quality of life is a great thing to sell here, that those others don't have. So that we do have good selling points, but we got to just make sure what Citrus County is and what we can bring here to this county.
I'll tell you two things that we have that those other counties don't have. We have, I believe, a much stronger percentage of veteran population, so any veteran-owned business or veteran product would be great, but we also have the geography for aerospace, because we have the water, and we have the sparsely populated land, and we have that beautiful little curve of the state, which, knock on wood, tends to make our hurricane situation a lot less.
Right.
So aerospace is a fantastic industry to target for us. So we do have some advantages, but your point's well taken.
Well, what I'd like to do, and I'm not rushing to do anything, but I don't want to sit around and wait either.
Exactly.
What I'd like to do with the board's approval is to get this on the next agenda that we can get it on with further discussion. Okay, because that way, between now and when we get this on the agenda, we can be looking at other counties. So when this comes back up, you could say, hey, I like this, but what about if we add this to it or take it away, and then we can, yes, sir.
There's a point though we need to have a discussion about today that we haven't had yet. Okay, right now we are not with a economic development director here. Okay. So we need to get somebody on board. So we definitely need to move quicker versus slower, because we're just gonna drag it out. So and I think that's something we have to give direction to our administrator. Is I think he has some applicants in there, and I think he's got some qualified people. But does this board want to go ahead and get somebody on, or do we want to wait? But that's something we need to send direction today to the administrator. Of hiring somebody.
Well, my thought is, we had already had an existing TDC when we hired the new TDC director. He knew what we were doing, and it's a matter of seeing everybody's on the same page, but it might make sense to reach out to get somebody on board now, to have them involved in this process.
Have them involved in this, that's right. I mean,
that-
the longer we wait, and he's having to sit on applicants, then, if we do have some good applicants, they're going to start disappearing and going somewhere else because we're just holding. We're not moving forward. So this board needs to definitely send a message to Mr. Oliver whether we want to go ahead and get somebody on board to participate in what we're doing here today.
I would like to see it. Yes, sir.
I would say that, that Randy should be, or this board should give him direction to interview the candidates that he feels are qualified to be interviewed. And if he finds one that he thinks is the right individual, then let's get him hired.
There you
Let's get
go.
him on board.
I agree 100% with that.
Anybody disagree with that? No disagreement. Okay, Mr. Oliver, you hearing that? No? We're giving you a clean path here to move forward with this.
And then they can be part
And they
of
need
it.
to be part of this.
Yeah.
If this is what we're going to do and this is the road we're going to be going down, the last thing we want to do is not have somebody on board to be a part of what we're doing here.
What I would think is we start with this and we keep tweaking on it. We get the economic development director's input, and then we'll come up with our final, here's what we're going to adopt, once we go down the road. But to even have a vote on that, we need to get it on the agenda. So, do we need to give formal approval to we don't, Randy can hire people whenever he
Randy,
wants,
that's
right?
his
So he can-
employee anyway.
yeah. So we don't need to do that, but we do need to get this on the agenda.
But I do think the administrator was waiting to see what this
Oh, yeah,
conversation was
yeah,
about
yeah.
today, to whether to move forward to get someone on board or not, that person. Because again, if we get somebody on board, they might bring some good thoughts to this board on how to move forward. So, but I think number one goal is to give him that direction to get someone on board.
I agree. And my number one goal is let's just not repeat what we've done in the past. It's just, yes, ma'am.
I just, in looking, the the TDC was created by ordinance,
Right.
and as we know, the TDC is very much patterned after statute. This would be an EDC type thing, and so I would suggest that you create or do a resolution creating this EDC, and taking a stab at creating it based on these bylaws. We can prepare that resolution for you for whenever it gets on the agenda. So you'll have a resolution creating the board and then the bylaws for that board.
Okay, and
If
that can
that's
be
what you want.
discussion, we can, and that way the public knows we're gonna talk about it, and they can come and participate. And it doesn't have to be adopted that day, you know, we can keep adding to it or whatever. The resolution would just say we're gonna establish the Economic Development Council. Then
Right, and it'll talk-
bylaws and everything else can follow later, correct?
And it'll talk about how you're gonna fund it, or, you know, which, you know, with the business tax.
Okay. Is everybody good with getting that on the agenda in front of us? I don't know why these can't be multiple tracks, you know, that we're going down here. We're
Right.
starting on this, starting on that, so.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
before,
yes.
before we go to public input and eventually wrap this up, there is a date coming up that I think we need to address because it is economic development related. On November 22nd is when we have site selectors coming to town, and February 22nd. We've got site selectors coming to town, and that is also the day we've got a county commission meeting, and we've got our 5:30 public input. Does the board think it's important for somebody to be there with that group of site selectors?
I would agree. Somebody, you know, if we've had people miss meetings and workshops before because of conflicting business, I'd see no problem. Are you volunteering for that? Somebody volunteering for that?
I wanted to put it out there for discussion. I certainly would. But I just want to make sure that somebody, you know, if this board thinks it's important, obviously important enough that we're bringing these folks to town, somebody should be with them.
When are they here?
On the
I know
22nd, I'm not sure exactly. of the
21st,
time.
22nd, and 23rd.
Yeah, it's
but the
Monday,
20
Tuesday, or Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yes, I will do that. I'll sit and meet with Randy and find out when would be the best time to.
Anybody object to that?
Plan
No,
on doing
absolutely
that.
not. But yeah, we definitely don't want to bring them to town and have no one there.
Right,
That would
right.
be not, that would not be a good,
Here's a map.
That would be a good, not a good.
Yeah, with the 20, and the same thing, I told Randy earlier, I couldn't do any of those 3 dates, so see who else could, but then I also saw that the 22nd was our meeting.
Right.
And it's also the night of our 5:30 special meeting, right?
Right.
Which is why you're volunteering, right?
So,
No.
I
If
I was
they're here
gonna
3
say-
days.
I was gonna
Yeah, I mean,
say, I think my duty is to be here as the chair, and I think Commissioner Slaybach needs to be here because it was her idea to do the 5:30, so she should be here for that.
Right.
I'll go.
Okay, okay, so we got the 5:30 cover, or we got the, that
Yeah.
meeting covered. We're gonna have Mr. Oliver start considering hiring a economic development director. The attorney's gonna draft a resolution creating the Economic Development Council and a rough set of bylaws that we'll start massaging and working through. And we can vote on a resolution and adopt the resolution, but we can create everything else after, can we not? Can, like, bylaws to follow, so on and so forth, right? Okay.
Yes, you could, or you can do them at the same time.
Okay. Well, again, we're not rushing, but we want to get the process, and to me, the sooner we get it out there, the more public input we get, the more we get to work on it before we adopt it, so. I'd rather have 1 or 2 public hearings and meetings about it before we go in, and that'll also give us time to look at other counties and all that, so. Also, what will also be a good idea when that comes forward is if we can have just a summary sheet of what our incentive package is now, because I know we have targeted businesses. I know we also have these sewer and water incentive grant deals that we have that we can offer people. So sometimes we get so much stuff out there that we forget what's out there. So let's have a summary of that back in front. And that's the kind of thing that whoever ends up being on this board, this council, needs to have that information in front of them all the time. This is what our toolbox is. This is what we have to work with. What about doing that? So, okay, well, let's make sure. Is there anything you wanted to talk about from this formulation stage or direction you want to go, anything we haven't done yet?
No, I don't think so. I'm good with the direction we're going.
Okay. Commissioner?
We're gonna do it
I'm
for the
good.
public?
We're good? Okay, yeah, I will. I want to make sure you
Okay,
guys are
yeah,
done
we're good.
talking. Is anyone here from the public that would like to comment on what we discussed today? Anyone here from the public? Yes, sir. We're at the 3.
Yeah, I already did it.
Morning, sir. Good to see you.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. Commissioners, members of the staff, my name is Dixie Hollins. I'm impressed that we're having the time to devote to industrial activities here in Citrus County. I'm a little disappointed that there's not a handful of people here today. And that being said, I think we need to look at what we have here and what has transpired here over years. I remember when we first had, I think it was a committee of 100, I think we met every month. There was 25, 30 people at every meeting. Well established here in Citrus County, a greased wheel, so to speak. And over the years, it's just gotten weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And I think you all know the history of the EDC. We all get all excited. We go get a director. We fund it one way or the other. It's either private or it's public. Doesn't make any difference. And it just gets shoved under the shelf and it gets the dust on it and there's no excitement there. We've got to get some enthusiasm in this county somehow or another and get some of the new group, the new generations to get their hands wrapped around good paying jobs here in Citrus County. Good, clean paying jobs. But to take a few minutes, and I hope I'm not limited to 3, but maybe I am or not.
Yes, sir.
But Florida Power, Progress Energy, Duke, those are your main bodies here. 2 coal, a nuke, 2 more coal, 2 gas turbine plants. That's big operations there. Some of those are retired, some more will be retired. We have a solar farm up there, 500-acre solar farm, 2 gas lines, getting ready to upgrade some transmission lines up that way. Y'all mentioned the Veterans Expressway and the Turnpike. Those roads are coming, and I think we need to be organized so when those roads get here, we are ready to open up our doors to let the industrial activities come up here and prepared for it. The Greenway Trail is doing some improvements, the FWC operation up there, Citrus County boat ramp, United States Coast Guard possible relocation, Central Water and Sewer Studies been up in that area, Crystal River Airport's been improvements up there. But if I can just say one thing, and I've been saying this for a long time, until this county opens up its arms and say, we are welcoming you and we're going to help you get your permit, whether it's a house, whether it's a subdivision, or whether it's an industrial manufacturing building. Until this county commission, the administration, all the way down to the staff, all the way down to permitting, until we change that methodology or the way we go about doing things, people out in the industry today go, don't go to Citrus County. It's too hard to get a permit.
Thanks, sir.
It's too difficult.
Your
So
time's expired.
just-
I'm going to have to
Just
ask you.
remember, going in to a restaurant, it's difficult to get a seat.
Thank you.
It's difficult.
I'm going to have to cut you off. Your time has elapsed minutes ago. And this won't be the last discussion we have. That's why we're putting it on the agenda. There's going to be lots of opportunities for people to have input into this as we move along. So,
And Commissioner Kitchen, I would ask, I'm the only person here in the public. And this is 10:30 or 10:45. I would ask if I just get 2 more minutes of your time.
well, is there anybody else here to speak? Okay, it's at the board's discretion. I
don't have
usually
any
set the,
problem.
I usually set the rules so it's fair to everybody, but see that nobody else is here. If the board doesn't have any objection,
problems.
we'll give the speaker 2 more minutes.
Please.
Be okay?
Please,
Okay,
yeah.
2 more minutes.
Thank you, I appreciate it, respectfully. Going back to it's like going into a restaurant. You can't get a seat, you can't get service, and the food's no good. So you're not coming back. So seriously, I've been hearing this for 30 years. Until we get the message, we are so glad you built a home here. We're so glad we're going to help you with your permit, because your permit is part of our paycheck. When they go get a permit and they pay fees, they pay taxes, those taxes are part of that person's, whether it's the board member sitting here, the administration, or staff, or permitting agencies here in Citrus County. We are here to help you. We are here to help you go from point A to point B to point C so you can get your house built, or you can get your industrial park built, or your building. That's the first step. Make this man, we can't wait to get to Citrus County, because when a guy comes to build his house and he's getting a run around, he's not going to come back and build his shop here. He's going somewhere else. We got to get incentives. Man, we got 2 root beers at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We got to get some incentives for the people to come here. But the most important thing, regardless of all the boards, all the bylaws, you got to make this a welcome place. So those people that go get a permit, it's a pleasure to get a permit, not a headache. I'm not doing that again. That's the big. I've been hearing that for 30 years. I hear it all the time. It's up to you all to direct the staff to make it easy to come here and get a permit, whether it's a house or a garage apartment or a big industrial complex. I appreciate the extra time. Thank you very much. God
Thank you.
bless.
Appreciate you being here. Nobody else said they wish to speak? Have they changed their minds? Any other speakers? Okay, we will close public input on this. I will just say this in all fairness. Yeah, that for 30 years that's been said, but I have to say in the last 3 or 4 years I've heard just the opposite. I've talked to people that have built large commercial buildings here, and they told me, and I go up to them and I'd say, what was your experience here? Expecting to hear the worst. And they'd say, it's the best county we ever built in. We built all over Florida. This is the best, easiest county. Staff was the easiest to work with. And my only think that I've ever been able to determine the difference is sometimes large companies have whole departments that take care of permitting and, working to get buildings built, where sometimes smaller companies, they have to leave the job and go do it. We can make it difficult. All we've done, and I'll just continue to say this, the board sets the rules. Staff enforces the rules. So we can't set rules and then tell staff ignore the rules. So the speaker is quite right by saying it really does start with the board. I think staff would say, we have no rules. Build whatever you want, do it wherever you want. We have no zoning laws. That would be easy. That'd be easy to not only enforce or whatever, but the community says no, they want certain standards in their community. So it's the line we walk between making it fair and easy. But as I recall, one of the discussions we had, folks, was that the Economic Development Director's job, Commissioner Kennard alluded to this earlier, was that if somebody comes in and they want to establish a business here, they hold their hand and they walk them through the process. They say, okay, we're going to go here. This is what we need to do. We'll call it a pre-development or a pre-development meeting, but that person's job, part of their job, is once we get them here, we have to make them happy that they came here. So we walk them through the process. And if there's holdups, then they do what they can to help them expedite it. And I've always said, our job is to make sure that people follow the law, but to help them comply with the law, not to punish them and say, you can't do that. So, and if we don't like the law and we think it's too restrictive, then we change it. Any other comments?
Yes, quite frankly, I don't recall who it was that told me. But my understanding is that one of our neighboring counties, it might have been Marion County, that they actually, when they get a building permit application, or maybe it's a PUD application, or whatever it might be, when that application hits the counter, if that is something that is a employment creating, a job creating potential business, that there is some form of a stamp that is put on that thing. So it makes sure that it makes it through, doesn't mean it's gonna get approved the way that it is, but it moves along across desks, to make sure that it doesn't get, it's not a shot at staff, because if they got a stack of applications like that, they're sorting through it, but this would,
Prioritize.
maybe take a little preference over, Jeff Kennard wants to put in a tool shed. And here's my site plan and so forth. But I'll find out more information about it, but I think it was Marion County. But they actually, when that application hits the desk, they stamp it, and that takes it to a higher priority level of, again, not necessarily meaning it's getting approved, but it moves through the review process promptly. So that person who is ready to invest in our county and create jobs isn't sitting around and waiting for, the review of this part, or this particular review, or that particular review.
Great.
So,
Okay. Anything else? Mr. Oliver, I want to make sure we're on the same page when we leave here this morning. What I'm hearing is that you're going to move forward with your regular due diligence to fill the Economic Development Director position. We are going to draft a resolution for advertisement, creating an Economic Development Council. We were going to continue working with the bylaws that we've roughed out today. We'll schedule those for public hearing. And you will start assimilating all of our backup economic development information regarding incentives and that type of thing. And if you could, as that information comes in, get it out to the commissioners, so we're not waiting just for backup at the meeting date. So if we get information from other counties, or if anybody else gets it and they want to share, you can get it to Doug and he can share it. And then, so anything that comes in related to this as well, and then we'll get it on the agenda, start advertising to the public. Yes,
One
sir.
thing that I would like to maybe also have is how many counties do economic development privately versus publicly? I would like to know that. Whether there's a advantage of doing private economic development. And, I don't know that there is or isn't, but I would like to see that.
my only, I
want the
understand
opinion.
the desire to have the information. My only concern would be if I'm County X and we're doing economic development very well, I don't know how much information I'm gonna share with you about that, about how we do it. What you may get is, yes, we have a board, or we have economic development director with a couple staff members, but they may not tell you that they've got this private organization out here that he goes and meets with, once a month, or that type of thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
But I believe, though, that you do, and Mr. Oliver, tell me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that you have counties that do it privately in the city, or excuse me, the county, puts money into that fund. Would that be true or not?
That is true. I've got Marion's, thanks to Denise. I've got
I think they do it
or
privately.
Pasco, I'm sorry. I've got
Pasco is
Pasco, thanks to Denise, and it is private, but the people that belong to that, they contribute financially to their well-being.
And again, that's something we need to look at here. I mean, because there might be some, businesses that want to contribute also, but I know the county does too. I just want to see look at both models. That's.
We can get you the information. I'll bring it back March the 8th then, to give us time to put that together, and we'll bring it back on that date.
Okay. Is there anything you want to make sure that Mr. Oliver has, or instructions he has before we leave today, based on this topic?
No, I don't think so. I think we-
Got everything covered? Okay. And if anything else comes up that you think, is related to that topic, feel free to send us more information
Sure.
or whatever. I recall, folks, at one time I was the president or the chairman of the Economic Development Association. And that's when I was very involved with the Chamber of Commerce. And you're right, it's gone through all kinds of iterations. There's plus and minuses to both. At first, it was privately funded. Everybody contributed to be in it. And that person then, you know, was kind of a director of that company, had like a directorship, and they hired at that time a part-time staff person that manned the office. When I was involved with it, it was in Stan Olson's place over in Meadowcrest. And then it went, and there was always the arguments. Private groups can go out and wine and dine and do things behind the scenes that government can't do. But government can do some wine and dining, as we've learned with the TDC. There are things that you can work within. The problem we got into when you tried to do both was the commingling of what is tax dollars, and you can't be giving private groups tax dollars without some kind of, you know, auditing of how that money's being spent. And I think that's how we got to where we're today. That group did not want to share that information, as I recall. I mean, you were here during that time. And they said, no, we're not going to give you that information. We said, well, you have to, because we gave you tax dollars. You have to tell us how you spend it. So it was kind of like they were working against each other. And then we thought, okay, we'll bring it back in-house. We'll try to do what we can, and they'll try to do what they can. And that's why you have kind of like two standalone things. That's my recollection of the history. I also remember Bridge 2000. I also remember, you know, all these other groups that came along and did this. And they all, you know, it was all with good intent and different ideas. But as we know, things change, communities change, and we didn't have a road then or two roads coming. So this would be the time, I think, to reexamine all this. So sounds to me we've got our task laid out in front of us and a good place to start. So we've done public input. I'm going to save announcing the upcoming meetings till the regular meeting at 1 o'clock. So this will adjourn our workshop until we meet again at 1 o'clock for our regular meeting. Thank you.